This is part three of world building. We've gone over language and society and culture as well as what your technology and beings are. So now we get to the important parts, your characters. One of the first things you have to make sure of is that your characters fit in the world you've created. And I don't necessarily mean like that it's a human or a dwarf or anything like that. I mean that the personalities you have are appropriate for this world. To give you an example, let's say you have somebody who's a Starfleet officer and is Vulcan, okay? The idea of them being raised in an abusive childhood like Harry Potter doesn't really work with Vulcan society. That would involve a lot of emotions and anger that really aren't appropriate. Now, if you have a good enough backstory, you can pull it off, but for the most part, you need to make sure that the type of character you've created is going to fit into the world that you've created. The next thing is an arc. All of us, when you're writers, you talk about the character arc, about growing and everything else. Same thing. Does that character arc exist within the society and culture that you've done? Same example, a rags to riches arc really wouldn't work that well for Vulcans. Or a learning how to uh, be generous and kind and quit reacting in anger probably wouldn't work that well if you were a Klingon. So you have to make sure that your arc fits. Now, the last part of the story, along with an itchy nose, the last part of world building is the plot. Very close to the arc, but does the plot work? If I wanted to do a plot about finding a magical object that calls me into being the king, but I place it in the Star Trek universe, you have issues. So make sure that the plot you're coming up with supports the world or vice versa. Now, it depends on how you write. Some people create the world first and then they create the plot, and some people create the plot and then the world. As long as they mesh together, you're great. Here's the last part, and this is a part that a lot of people are going to have issues with. But does it fit the market? And this is up to you. It is not a hard and fast rule, but for the most part, anything you write, if you're here listening to this, is because eventually you want other people to sell it, to read it, which means you have to be able to sell it. Well, if you write a story with a world that doesn't fit the current market or is something that people are going to go, oh, that isn't jiving, you're going to have issues. Now, here's the thing. If you're a good writer, you can make almost any story fit the market. But when you're just starting out or you're playing with it, being able to say, hey, if you like X and Y, you might like what I'm writing because the worlds are similar, the stories are similar. Now, you can also throw all of this out and go the other direction, but at least be aware of it. One of the big things we talk about a lot is you need to know the rules to break them. In some ways, you need to know the market of the story you're writing to know how to break it. This is absolutely just things to think about. They may work for you, they may not. But when you're developing a world, at least run through this list and make sure that there isn't anything that drastically jumps out at you. I hope you've enjoyed.